How does early Christian philosophy help us understand what life is? There are two statements we can make regarding our universe, our reality. Our universe either exists within something or it does not. In either case, our definition of what life is becomes quite different. If life exists, then the definition of life would most probably have to be derived from an account for either one of these two perceptions. If life exists within God, or a causative force, as posited by Panentheism, then hope rises up and engulfs all individuals equally. Significance becomes absolute and rational rather than a possibility beyond our understanding. On the other hand, if life does not exist within God or the causative force, because there is no outside to the universe, then hope begins to die out and eventually loses the warmth and comfort it had to offer us. So in that case, that being said, if that be the case, if hope does begin to die out, without an existence outside the universe, time becomes a major factor of our existence, for it permeates our universe. With no outside beyond our reality, time, being a function of matter and energy, becomes a characteristic of all living things, and thus immortality becomes an irrational concept, as does the hope associated with the panentheistic metaphysic. In short, if nothing exists beyond the boundaries of our universe, immortality becomes illogical since time permeates our universe. With the elimination of the rationality of immortality, religions would lose their significance. Early Christian philosophy was not about to entertain any suggestions leading to this possibility. Hope, meaning, and purpose would lose significance, because part of that significance is indeed based within the world's spiritual traditions. So, it was that early Christian philosophy expanded upon the size of God, the causative force, over what Western, Middle Eastern, pre-Judaic faiths believed. Early Christian philosophy established the size of the causative force, or God, to be greater than physical reality, our universe. With the increase in size of the causative force came an elevation of the significance of the individual, followed by an elevation of behavior. None of this could simply be mere coincidence, but indeed it is an indication of humanity's biological as well as spiritual evolution within time and space. We cannot recant what we've already achieved in any area of life necessarily. Early Christian philosophy offered us an understanding of something greater existing than life, something greater than the universe existed, and we had the opportunity to be a part of it if, with philosophy questioning the qualifier, if philosophy found itself in direct confrontation with religion, which refused to give up its control over the keys to the gates of quote-unquote heaven. Religions, unwilling to be questioned, created a split between faith or belief, often irrational, and reason or rationality and logic, philosophy. Religion moved on with its own experience, ignoring scientific or philosophical perceptions contradicting religion. What does early Christian philosophy have to offer us as individuals? Early Christian philosophy offered us as individuals the understanding that we all were to be givers of and recipients of a concept called unconditional love. The concept of unconditional love, not unconditional acceptance necessarily. Early Christian philosophy established the notion of Christian principles being acted out, not just verbalized. The foundation of this idea was literally sealed in blood through the ultimate actions of the individual the Christians called the Christ. He reinforced this principle through the sacrifice of his life for others. Early Christian philosophy focused its thoughts and works upon the basic concepts of its founder. Its founder and greatest teacher was felt to be two things in one. To Christians, Christ was a part of the causative force, being the Son, or God the Son, while at the same time Christ was a man, an individual in time and space. Without knowing it, early Christian philosophy offered us as individuals the potential of being both. This idea was very unsettling to early Christian philosophy. The question became, how could imperfection, evil, be located within a perfect being? The easiest way of avoiding this topic was to proclaim it to be blasphemous and then to reject it. Religion could do this, but philosophy could not. So religion walked away from the question and proclaimed God to be omnipresent. Early Christian philosophy proclaimed the universe to be outside the causative force, or God to be outside of the universe, up in heaven. And so the two remained intact for hundreds of years. If the causative force is omnipresent, all present, then the universe must be within the causative force, or God. If the universe is within God, the universe and everything within it is a part, an emanation, an image, a piece of the causative force. Therefore, you are a part of the causative force as was Christ. A part in bodily form. As such, you, as did Christ, have a responsibility to society, others, and yourself. You are responsible to see to it that all people, regardless of race, color, creed, health, physical, mental capability, sexual orientation, past history, personal beliefs, etc., are treated no less than we would treat God, the causative force itself, himself, or herself. And lest we forget, the environment is nothing less than the home of each and every one of us, the home of the causative force herself, and thus deserves the same respect. What significance does early Christian philosophy have to offer us as a species? Early Christian philosophy held fast to the Judaic concept, and God created man in his image. In the image of God created he man, or them. Could the causative force create something perfectly without it actually becoming that item? If the causative force truly personifies the characteristic Homo sapiens have persistently attributed to her or him, then she is truly omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. As such, if she decided to create man in her image, she would have no problem knowing how to do so. She would have the ability, power to do so, and most likely would do so within herself, itself, himself, because there would be nowhere else to place her creation, since she is presumed to be omnipresent, all-present. Would man then be a piece of the causative force? This question is seldom discussed willingly in a rational fashion by people of quote-unquote faith. The only reason, however, to ignore such a discussion is out of fear of having to change one's perceptions. But there is no change that needs to take place regarding Christians and their perception of Christ. The perception of Panentheism still provides Christians with the ability to hold fast to their teachings. This new perception, or not so new, it's rather ancient, still allows for rationally acknowledging the purpose of Christ's coming. Humans were on a behavioral path accelerating inhumanity of each of us to the other. The Christian concept of someone needing to bring the message of unconditional love, salvation, liberation still has its merits. If anything, our being a part of God, or an emanation of the causative force, amplifies the need for such an action. A unified view would not diminish the significance of Christian philosophy, or any philosophy for that matter, nor of its rationale for who Christ was, why he came, and what it was he did. A model of a unified view would embrace this concept just as it would embrace concepts of Hinduism, Judaism, Buddhism, Islam, ontology, and science. Christian philosophy would offer our species a plank of unconditional love built into the model of a unified view, a universal philosophy. Any universal philosophy is just a model. Any universal philosophy model would not diminish the concepts of any particular, namely Christianity. What it would do is elevate our perception of what it is we think we are and why we exist, which in turn would elevate the need to improve the behavior of our species. What significance does early Christian philosophy have to offer other life forms in the universe? And are there other life forms in the heavens capable of abstract thinking? Are there other life forms with the capacity to understand the concepts of eternity, existence, beyond the boundaries of our universe, our physical reality, our being within a greater being, the concept of a causative force? Early Christian philosophy had much to offer all life forms in the heavens. The concept of unconditional love was most likely not intended for Homo sapiens alone. Nowhere did it say, love Homo sapiens as thyself, although early Christian philosophy did not address the issue of unconditional love in terms of other life forms in the heavens. They, interestingly enough, analyzed it in terms of the generic sense, the message was clear and left clearly generic. The message was not left as unconditional love only for a select few or an elect or elite, nor as unconditional love only for your fellow humans. The message was also not unconditional acceptance. Tough love is very much a part of the general work established by early Christian philosophy. Unconditional love was not a case of accepting every type of behavior being acted out. Quite the contrary. The point was to not only give unconditional love, but to take the responsibility to make sure all members of society were being treated in this fashion by yourself, by other members in society, and by society itself. Actions of abuse, hate, prejudice, intimidation, coercion, whether self-inflicted, inflicted by others, or inflicted by society, were actions to be eliminated. People's journeys were to be respected and assisted, and it was your responsibility, my responsibility, to make sure this was accomplished. The implications of Christian philosophy is that unconditional love belongs to all, not just humans, but Christian philosophy oriented around the idea of Christ coming to our planet, to Earth. What possible reason could exist for such a visit to our planet? Perhaps the idea of Christ coming to this planet was significant in itself. Perhaps it provides some understanding and insight as to the significance we have as a species. Perhaps our evolution towards recognizing the value of the individual was a significant one. Perhaps, but that will be up to religions to decide.